Hey everybody, this is your right geek, honorary man king, and leader of the Awkward Cough Squad, here with another Iron Man review. Once again, this is a very dedicated, very passionate Iron Man fan who is going to explain to you everything that is wrong with this week's Iron Man comic. This is Iron Man number 3, with Christopher Cantwell writing and Cafu and DeMarta on the art. And of course, we have this Alex Ross cover here. Now, again, like I said in the last of these videos, when I completely trashed issue 2, the art, I don't have a problem with the art. I like the art very much. As a matter of fact, the art is pretty much the only reason why I'm buying these at this point, because the story is rapidly losing me. Well, it lost me last week. So unless he does something radical to kind of pull it out of the tailspin, I don't really see how the story is going to be all that successful for me. But the art is A+. So that's basically why I'm buying these at this point, because I do appreciate good art. I do like having good art in my comics collection. So good art. This issue, after we have this one kind of opening page of the unicorn showing up to serve Korvac here, we get to Tony. Tony's kind of internal monologue. At the beginning of this issue, he's feeling very frustrated because it seems like no matter what he does, no one thinks he's doing anything right. And this section somewhat rubbed me the wrong way. And I think the reason for that is that as an Iron Man fan, I am very attached to the kind of original classic Iron Man of the Silver and Bronze Ages, and that Iron Man is very much a different character compared to the Iron Man that seems to be written nowadays. I believe, based on my reading, and I've read everything. I've read the old stuff and I've read the new stuff, that there was a shift in how Tony was characterized somewhere around the turn of the 21st century, where suddenly the creators behind Iron Man decided that Tony had an arrogance problem, or that he had an ego problem. But if you actually go back and you read the classic Silver and Bronze Age stuff, as a founding Avenger, Tony integrates himself into a team with no trouble. Actually, if you look at the old Avengers comics, it's really Hawkeye that seems to have a problem integrating with the team and being willing to take direction, and Tony seems to have no problem at all doing that. And at the same time, in his own books, whether you're talking about the shorter Tales of Suspense stories or the stories in Volume 1, you see that Tony is constantly criticizing himself and punishing himself for what he perceives as his faults, or what he perceives he is doing wrong. For example, there's one little Tales of Suspense story, I believe it's Tales of Suspense number 59, where there's a misunderstanding and he gets into this fight with Captain America. It's one of those classic Marvel misunderstandings. And he, at the end, when he realizes that it was a misunderstanding, it was a mistake, and they managed to sort everything out between him and Steve, the final panel is of him like sitting there excoriating himself for not thinking and just acting on impulse. So in the kind of Silver and Bronze Age, he's actually a very self-critical and very kind of self-punishing character, and doesn't really show. And in actuality, he's showing in these early comics a kind of humility, because he's willing to examine himself and question what he's doing, and question if it's what he's doing is the right thing to do, or if he's doing it for the right reasons. And so, and it's true that in that period, at the same time, he also had very much a concern about control. He wanted to control how his technology was being used. He did not want his technology to be used for evil, because he kind of has this insane concept in his mind that if something of something is his is used for evil because he invented it, that makes it his fault, which that's actually completely insane and crazy and not stable at all. But I never said Tony was a stable character. So, but like that, the need for control and the need for mastery over his life and over the things that he believes he has control over, that it's a little different, I think, than what the modern interpretation seems to be, which is that he just thinks he's best at everything and therefore should control it. There was definitely, in my opinion, there was a change that happened that fundamentally changed how the character is being written, and it bothers me. And it bothers me in the modern comics when I see evidence of that change. So what we have here in this sequence, we have Tony feeling run down and frustrated because nobody seems to be appreciating what he's doing. Everyone's acting like he's not doing anything right. So he's asking himself, what do you people want from me? And I definitely buy. I think it's a good concept to have Tony in this state of frustration with his role as a superhero. That's definitely something that has been done canonically before. But where I kind of go a little bit, as someone who is a fan of classic Iron Man, is that in the old days, in the classic Iron Man days, whenever Tony got frustrated with being Iron Man, he didn't really direct his frustrations at the general public he was trying to help, at least not in my recollection. And bear in mind, I've read basically every Iron Man comic that exists. So unless my memory is failing me here, I've never in the classic era, I never really saw him saying I never really saw him basically whining that the public is not appreciating what he's doing. Usually, if he was feeling ground down or frustrated with his role as Iron Man, what he would do is he would externalize the Iron Man identity and then pour all of his resentments into that. So in that classic era, you would see repeatedly whenever he was frustrated, he would he would look at his helmet and say, damn it, Iron Man, you are the cause of all my problems. And then he would throw the helmet across the room. That happened so many times, I literally lost count the first time I read through his canon. So here, the fact that he's, expressing resentment of the general public, it fits with the less good modern interpretation of Tony Stark, but it does not fit with kind of my favorite classic version. The classic version would be here throwing his armor around the room and saying, "Damn it, Iron Man is giving me nothing but pain," instead of directing his anger at the people, at the common folk, basically. So we have this several pages of him questioning, am I even one of you? And he, there's this sort of superiority complex that comes in his internal monologue that, hey, I am incredibly powerful. I could, if I wanted, just do anything I wanted without any control whatsoever. Which, again, I go, yeah, a little bit at that. Because Tony, as I understand him, having read all of his canon, he does have a very high and not entirely unearned estimation of his ability to control the winds of fate, so to speak. But that doesn't really translate, not even in the modern comics, really, into an overall feeling of superiority. I mean, even in the modern comics where we have the ego, the better Iron Man comics, which include the ego, also include at the same time this layer of self-loathing that what Tony really thinks about himself is that he's a garbage person whose only redeeming feature is the fact that he is Iron Man. So I went a little bit at this, where he's thinking I am more powerful than you, I'm better than you, and I could lord it over you if I want. That didn't really feel 100% Tony to me. So I had it. This wasn't the biggest problem with this comic, but it was something that I had a little bit of a problem with because it did not really fit with my interpretation of what actually goes on internally in Tony's head. I think, the way I interpret Tony, he's got like this the public face and he's got the private face, and in the public face, he is, even in the modern interpretation, or in all interpretations, the public face is very confident and sometimes can come off as egotistical, especially the more modern you get. But that's public, and that's different from what he actually thinks about himself in his head. What he actually thinks about himself in his head is a lot more negative and self-loathing than what he actually projects to the outside world. So what Cantwell, I think, is missing here is the difference between what Tony projects to the outside world, that that's of confidence and that air of, I'm a genius and I'm in control and I can handle it, that's like his facade that he faces the world with. And then what's actually going on the inside, which is a lot more complex and a lot less confident. So Cantwell, I think, misses the mark a little bit here on that. Now we have here with the school children, with the basically the dumbest teachers on earth. Just thought it would be fun for them or for you. Excuse me? Our days are carefully built around structured fun centered on learning. Okay, I'm a teacher, and if Iron Man showed up at my school, I'd be like, great, this is a fantastic opportunity to get people excited about like engineering and STEM, like an actual genuine organic opportunity to get the kids interested in like electronics and transistors and all the things that Iron Man does. And I would, if he showed up, I would throw out whatever my plan was for the day and just let him talk, because this idea of like structured fun, I'm not really sure what Cantwell's trying to do here. If he's trying to make a dig at elite education and its overemphasis on structure, then that's actually pretty fun and clever. But but I feel like contextually, this is just more let's attack Tony, which is getting tiresome. Well, it got tiresome last week. And the fact that it's continuing, that's why I said in the title of this video that it's starting to border on sadistic now. Seriously, leave the man alone. He's trying, okay? And there are signs here. There are signs all throughout these issues that Tony is not exactly in the healthiest frame of mind emotionally. The way that he's being drawn, which I'm sure is deliberate, he's being drawn with kind of this sort of hangdog look, and his like facial hair. He's not shaving, like his facial hair is not coming in all the way. Let me actually, or his facial hair is not clean. Yeah, we have here the melter that he almost pulps. He just basically, he loses his temper and he almost pulps the melter here because the melter destroyed his car. Which, FYI, that is a sign for Tony of extreme emotional strain. So why there wasn't a more like, whoa, response from the people around him about that, and why someone didn't show up and say, is everything okay, man? Because you seem like you're off right now. You seem like maybe there's something going on in your head that you need some help with. Okay, I'm trying to find where we actually see his face, because I just want to point out. Yeah, look at him here. It's 3:45 in the morning. He clearly hasn't slept, right? And you can see that, he hasn't slept. He hasn't shaved. I'm going to guess he hasn't showered either. So the way that he's being portrayed and the way that he's being drawn really suggests to me that he is kind of in a depressive phase right now. Not kind of, he is in a depressive phase right now. Which, that's not unprecedented for him. He does have his moody periods, as we've discussed in the past. So the fact that he is in this state, that he is having trouble controlling his temper, that he's feeling worn down, the fact that he seems to not be interested in socializing with his usual milieu, the fact that in issue 1, for example, he basically cut himself off. Well, he set up this party, but then he like EMP'd them all because he didn't want to talk to them. Like, it really suggests that he's kind of in this major depressive state, which makes the fact that that everyone else in this comic series seems to be intensely focused on how terrible Tony is and how he needs to be lectured constantly about what a terrible privileged person he is. It is sadistic. It's kicking a man while he's down. And the prime example of this is this scene here where we have Patsy / Hellcat and Tony flying in an airplane coach. And of course, this is a good time to make fun of the fact that Tony's rich, so he's never flown coach before. Ha ha, he's completely out of touch with the common man. Yeah, okay, we get it. Stop. Seriously, I'm tired of that. And look, see here, he's being drawn again as this kind of scruffy, not well-groomed, kind of depressed guy. So again, like I said, I am interpreting this as Tony's in this severe depressive funk, and how's everyone around him responding to that? They're basically treating him like shit, and I have obviously I'm going to have a problem with that. I'm very, very protective of my Marvel boyfriend. Don't mistreat him, especially when he is in this quasi-suicidal state. And I say suicidal with utter seriousness because, back in issue 2, he actually says to Patsy in that hospital scene, but what if I died heroically? So he's talking about dying. He's actually looking for ways to die. And the response, again, is we're going to treat him like shit. We're going to lecture him about how terrible and privileged he is and how he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand the struggles of other people, etc., so forth. And the thing that really gets me about this, scene as she lectures him, is that Patsy gets everything wrong. And I'm going to explain all the ways that Patsy gets everything wrong when I get to the part where she loses his temper and says, "Fuck you, Tony. Maybe I don't feel the need to be famous," she says. "Maybe I've worked my way back from being dead and figured out what actually matters to me." To which Tony says, yeah, I've been dead too. And not by choice you haven't, she says. And I went, yee! When I read that, because no, he has been dead by choice. or he has chosen to die on several occasions. I actually commented on your boy Zach's video just now about this very thing. Gestures of gratuitous self-sacrifice are very, very common in Iron Man canon. Just off the top of my head, I don't even have to reach that far back. You can just go back to Matt Fraction's run shortly after Civil War, in which once Norman Osborn takes over S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony decides that in order to keep Norman Osborn from getting access to the SHRA database that has all the secret identities of all the heroes that are registered, he deliberately erases his own brain so that Osborn can't get access to those files, in an act that can be argued to be suicidal. And he had like a backup plan. He had a way to kind of reboot himself, but there was no guarantee that that was going to work. And you can tell that he knew that because he actually records a message to Captain America and Thor that the way that it's written, it sounds very much like a goodbye message. Like, because he's talking about how, I've always looked up to you. I think you're, in AA, they talk about trying to surrender yourself to a higher power. Well, I don't really believe in God, but you guys are like my inspiration. You're the people, your goodness and your heroism are what I'm trying to aim for, what I'm reaching for, which sounds an awful lot like, I'm so sorry this has happened, that I had to kill myself, but, please know that I admire you. You are my inspiration. So I think he knew in the back of his mind that this probably that this might not work. And he was okay with it not working if that's the way it went. So, no, Patsy, you're wrong. He has chosen to die. And the Matt Fraction run incident is not the only time that that's happened. So this is wrong. And then she just continues. Maybe this is Tony thinking in his head, yeah, actually, I have chosen to die more than once. I don't know. I got to a place where I thought the best thing for me to do was kill myself. Oh, Tony's been in that place. And then he says, I'm sorry, but I think Tony should have also said, oh, I've been in that place. Remember that time I almost died in a gutter in the middle of a blizzard in New York City? He's been in that place. And then she says here, miraculously, I was given a chance to see that the choice I made was wrong. But do you think someone is all better after something like that? Of course not. Yeah, and he wouldn't think that because he's been in that place. You have no idea what it feels like to constantly hear something dark in your head. Yes, he does. Oh my gosh, you are so wrong, Patsy. He totally does. FYI, clap warning. Tony is a recovering alcoholic. As a matter of fact, at least at one point in canon, his alcoholism, his addiction, and his depression got so bad that, as I alluded to before, he almost died of exposure in the street gutter. Okay, so he actually absolutely does have a very clear idea to hear some of what it's like to hear something constantly dark in his head, and he should have been allowed to say that. And I think the only way I can reconcile the fact that Tony does not say that Tony does not speak up and say, actually, I've been dealing with depression and addiction and dark thoughts and depression spirals my entire life. Let me explain to you how much I have suffered. The fact that he doesn't, I think, is just, once again, it's another sign of what I believe is he's in a depressive phase. And Patsy kind of attacking him again. It is kicking a man while he's down instead of recognizing that there's something going on with him and that maybe he needs something a little more supportive than, oh, what a terrible privileged person you are. Every day is hard. You might not see it, but sometimes it feels like I'm walking on a razor's edge. Yeah, Tony knows that. Tony has lived that intimately. The fact that he's rich does not change the fact that he was an alcoholic. He has struggled with depression, and he has been in a situation where, because of the aforementioned alcoholism and depression, he has completely trashed his life to the point where he has nothing, and he has to work himself back up once he has recovered from that tailspin. That was literally like the story of Iron Man from like 83 to 85, roughly. I'm estimating here on my years. So either, and wouldn't you think, because I believe everyone and his mother in the 616 is aware that Tony is an alcoholic. I'm pretty sure it got public play when it happened. So the fact that Patsy would sit here and talk obliviously about how, Tony has no idea how hard it is to be depressed and have to work yourself back up from a suicidal place, et cetera, and so forth. Either I don't think Cantwell is all that familiar with the entirety of Iron Man canon, because otherwise he wouldn't make that mistake. Yes, Tony does know what it's like to come back from a dark place, to have to completely rebuild your life from nothing. That actually is a recurring motif for Iron Man, because he has these recurring sort of falls from grace because of the kind of psychological instability that he deals with. And then after the fall from grace, you have the reinvention. That's the cycle of Iron Man throughout the years. So I'm not worried about other people's opinions of me. You tend not to when you're trying to preserve a ceasefire with your own mind. But, so again, I'm just it's just so wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. You guys don't know anything about Tony, I think, because you're not bringing in anything from his past that he would be able to respond to Patsy with. So yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's intentional. Maybe, like I said, maybe my kind of desperate attempt to make sense out of this, that it's just because Tony is depressed. That's why he's not firing back. That's why he's not answering back. But it could also be that Cantwell just really hasn't done enough reading of Iron Man to understand that actually Tony's had a lot of struggles and a lot of pain in his life, and does in fact know very well what it's like to come back from a dark place, or to be in a dark place. the fact that he's rich does not the fact that he's rich does not negate that in any way. And that was the whole point. When Stanley created the character, he said, what he said was, I wanted to take a character that everyone would just be naturally inclined to hate. He's rich, he's handsome, he gets all the women. And I wanted to turn that stereotype on its head and say, this is a rich guy who you're inclined to hate. But look, he's heroic. And more than that, he has struggles and he has pain. He was intended from the very beginning to be a character that challenged the idea that all rich people, that rich people never have struggle and never have pain. No, it's wrong. This is wrong. Okay, moving on. Let's do browse pages. Let's skip some pages for the copyright gods here. So we have when they actually show up to their destination, it turns out that Korvac is waiting for Tony. And what ends up happening is they get hit by one of his lightning bolts here. And it stops their heart, or they black out, essentially. Yeah, it stops their heart there. Tony gets defibbed. And he looks over and he sees that Hellcat is possibly dead, although I guess they're going to shock her back to life by the next issue, because for some reason Hellcat has to be in this comic and not any of Tony's supporting cast. That's the other thing that bothers me too, is clearly based on his actions and based on the way he's looking, Tony is in a major depressive phase. Why aren't any of his longtime friends showing up and saying, hey man, what's going on? Like where's Rhodey? Where's Pepper? They should all be showing up and saying, dude, you almost pulped that Melter guy in front of a large crowd of people. That's not your usual behavior. Something is clearly wrong. Tell us what's going on and maybe we can help you. The fact that seed is not there bothers me so much. Where is his supporting cast? But this last panel actually was the one kind of bright spot in this, for me anyway, is when he sees Hellcat injured, possibly temporarily dead, and he says, it's all my fault again. That actually is classic Tony Stark. Tony Stark thinking that anything bad that happens in his general vicinity is something that is his fault, whether it is his fault or not. So that's what gets me about Cantwell, is that he can pull out something like this that is actually very, very classic Tony Stark, but then it's surrounded by a bunch of BS. Just read more Iron Man, get more familiar with Iron Man, and you can actually do better with this book. So anyway, that's those are my thoughts on Iron Man #3. I think we really like I said, I'm buying these for the art because I like the art. So I am going to continue to read this because, first of all, it's material for my channel. Let's just be frank. It's material for my channel. But secondly, I like the art. And there's also like a tiny sliver of hope that maybe he will listen to some of the criticisms that some of us are offering, and maybe he'll shift a little bit how he writes the story. What he needs to scrap right now is the sadistic, over-the-top criticism of Tony, because just stop. It's tiresome. Like I said, he's clearly depressed. Stop kicking him. Stop kicking him. Leave him the hell alone. Like I said in the last of these long videos, he has spent his entire life looking through his privilege and trying to use his position and his resources to better the world. So, and he has almost died several times trying to save people or trying to save the world. So he is the last person you should be needling about how terribly privileged and white he is. Please stop and focus instead on the fact that he's depressed, and maybe what take this story in the direction of he's depressed, he's troubled, he doesn't know quite where he's going to take his life, what new direction he's going to go in, because that sort of basic premise is good, and have him like really do some soul searching about what it actually means to be Tony Stark, because he's always had that problem where he's not quite sure who the real Tony Stark is, because he's got all these armors and all these facades that he uses to face the public, and it's all of that kind of extra has covered up what he really is inside. Have him do that sort of soul searching, and maybe come to discover what it is that what is in fact the essence of Tony Stark in reality, deep in his heart. Get into sort of the emotional aspect, and steer away from the let's attack Tony for how problematic and privileged he is. Please stop. Please stop. So anyway, what are your thoughts on my thoughts on this comic? I'd love to hear them. Please comment on the video below if you have any additional comments you would like to make, and I will speak to you again next week.